2026 will not change your life, but the habits you carry into it will decide whether it rewards you or repeats you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you walk into 2026 the same way you walked into 2025, don't expect a different destination. Time doesn't change lives. Decisions do. The truth most people don't want to hear is this: the future you're about to live in is already being built by the habits you practice today. Most people think success is about information. It's not. We live in the most informed generation in history, yet the most distracted, undisciplined, and inconsistent. The real divider between people who win and people who watch others win is not talent, luck, or opportunity. It's habits. Quiet, daily, invisible habits. Before you step into 2026, there are some habits you must refuse to carry with you, and some you must install no matter how uncomfortable they feel at first. The first shift is understanding that your life will never outperform your identity. You don't do what you want consistently, you do what you believe you are. If you see yourself as average, your habits will protect that identity. If you see yourself as disciplined, focused, and valuable, your behavior will rise to match it. Change doesn't start with effort, it starts with a decision about who you are no longer willing to be. When your identity changes, your habits follow automatically. The second habit is learning to choose discipline over emotion. Motivation feels good, but it's unreliable. Discipline feels boring, but it works. The people who get results don't feel like doing what they do it anyway. They understand that feelings are terrible aiders. If you only act when you feel like it, your life will always be at the mercy of your moods. Discipline is simply deciding once and refusing to renegotiate daily. Another habit you must develop is controlling your inputs. Your mind is not a trash can, it's a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. What you listen to while driving, what you scroll before bed, what you allow to entertain you, these things are shaping your thinking more than any motivational speech ever will. If you want a better life, you need better inputs. What you consume eventually becomes what you believe, and what you believe determines how you behave. You also have to stop glorifying effort and start valuing leverage. Being busy is not the same as being productive. Exhaustion is not a badge of honor. The habit of high-level thinkers is asking better questions. How can this be done smarter? How can this be multiplied? How can one action create multiple results? When you learn to think in leverage, your results grow without your stress increasing. Another life-changing. Habit is mastering delayed gratification. Most people know what to do. They just don't want to wait for the reward. They choose comfort now, pay for it later. Successful people do the opposite. They pay now and collect later. They understand that saying no today is often saying yes to a better tomorrow. If you can learn to delay pleasure, you gain control over your future. You must also develop the habit of decisive thinking. Indecision is a silent killer. It drains energy, destroys momentum, and keeps people stuck in preparation. Mode forever. Clarity creates speed. Progress comes from decisions, not perfection. Make the best decision you can with the information you have, adjust as needed, and keep moving forward. Momentum favors the bold, not the hesitant. Here's the truth most people miss: habits compound. You don't see the damage of bad habits immediately, and you don't see the reward of good ones right away either. Time exposes everything. The habits you tolerate today will introduce themselves to you in full by 2026. So don't walk into the new year hoping for change. Hope is not a strategy. Walk in with standards, walk in with systems, walk in with habits that align with the life you say you want. Because the next version of your life is not waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on a decision. And the question is simple. Will 2026 be a repeat or a breakthrough? The answer starts today. Most people try to change their actions before they ever change their identity, and that's why the change never lasts. They set goals, make plans, buy journals, download apps, and promise themselves that this time will be different. But a few weeks later, they're right back where they started. Not because they lack willpower, but because they are trying to build new behaviors on top of an old self-image. Your identity is the operating system of your life. If the operating system doesn't change, no app you install will run properly. You don't consistently do what you want. You consistently do what you believe you are. Every action you repeat is a vote for the person you think you are. If deep down you see yourself as someone who quits, procrastinates, or settles, your habits will quietly work to protect that identity. The mind is loyal to self-image. It will sabotage progress just to stay familiar. That's why people will say they want success but feel uncomfortable when things start going well. Success conflicts with how they see themselves. Real transformation begins when you make a firm decision about who you are becoming. Not who you hope to be one day, not who you act like when motivation is high, but who you are now choosing to identify as. When someone says, "I'm trying to be disciplined," they're still leaving the door open for inconsistency. But when someone decides, "I am disciplined," their behavior changes because acting otherwise would feel out of alignment. Identity creates internal pressure. You don't need reminders when your behavior matches who you believe you are. This is why action without identity is exhausting. You're forcing yourself to act against your self-concept. That requires constant motivation, constant pushing, constant self-talk. But when identity shifts first, action becomes natural. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" Because disciplined people don't ask that question. Focused people don't debate distractions. Prepared people don't wait until the last minute. They act in alignment with who they believe they are. Identity is shaped by the stories you tell yourself. Every time you say, "That's just how I am," you are reinforcing a limit. Every time you excuse a behavior, you give it permission to stay. If you want a new life, you need new language about yourself. Speak from the future you're committed to, not the past you're familiar with. The moment you change the narrative, your standards rise automatically. This doesn't mean pretending or being delusional. It means deciding in advance how the future version of you behaves and then aligning your actions accordingly. You don't wait for proof to change your identity. You change your identity and let the proof catch up. Confidence is not built by success alone. It's built by keeping promises to yourself. Each small action done in alignment with your new identity strengthens it. When identity comes first, habits stop feeling like chores and start feeling like confirmations. You wake up earlier not because you're forcing yourself, but because that's what the person you've decided to be does. You prepare, you study, you execute, not to impress others, but to stay consistent with who you are becoming. If you want 2026 to look different, you don't start by asking what you need to do. You start by asking who you must become. Because once NTID is clear, action becomes inevitable. And the life you want stops being a struggle and starts being a reflection. Most people are waiting to feel ready before they act. And that wait is costing them years of progress. They're waiting for motivation, inspiration, the right mood, or the perfect timing. But motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. They rise and fall with sleep, stress, weather, and circumstances. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care how you feel. It operates on decision, not emotion, and that's why it works. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment, when in reality it's freedom. It's the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of resistance. The disciplined person doesn't wake up more excited than everyone else, they wake up more committed. They understand that success is rarely about intensity, it's about consistency. Small actions done daily will outperform big actions done occasionally every single time. Occasional motivation creates occasional results. You go hard for a week, then disappear for a month. You start strong, then slow down when it gets uncomfortable. That cycle feels productive, but it's deceptive. It keeps you busy without moving you forward. Discipline breaks that cycle by removing negotiation. When something is non-negotiable, it doesn't drain mental energy. You don't debate brushing your teeth, you just do it. High performers treat their most important habits the same way. Discipline also protects you from your future SE. The version of you that's tired, distracted, or frustrated will always look for an excuse. Discipline is deciding in advance what you will do when motivation is gone. It's a commitment made in your strongest moment that carries you through your weakest ones. That's why disciplined people seem unstoppable, not because they're stronger, but because they've removed choice from critical actions. Any people think discipline requires willpower, but willpower is limited. Systems beat willpower every time. Discipline is built by structure, not force. You decide when, where, and how something gets done, so you don't rely on energy or inspiration. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes automatic. What was once resistance becomes routine. There is also a confidence that comes only from discipline. Not the loud kind, but the quiet certainty that you can trust yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when no one is watching, you build self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of long-term success. People who lack discipline don't lack information, they lack trust in themselves. Discipline compounds in ways motivation never can. Motivation gives you a spark. Discipline builds the fire. One pushes you occasionally, the other carries you daily. Over months and years, the difference becomes massive. The disciplined person looks lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. They simply showed up on the days they didn't feel like it. If you want your life to change, stop asking how to stay motivated and start deciding what you will do regardless of motivate. Ion. Feelings will lie to you. Discipline will lead you. When discipline becomes your lifestyle, progress stops being optional and starts being inevitable. And that's when real transformation begins. Most people are fighting for a better life while feeding their mind the very things that keep them stuck. They want clarity but consume chaos. They want confidence but listen to doubt. They want growth but binge distraction. The mind does not filter information for quality or truth. It accepts repetition as reality. Whatever you consistently watch, hear, and read doesn't just inform you, it programs you. And whether you realize it or not, your inputs are quietly shaping your beliefs, decisions, and expectations. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts, and you're dominant though. T's are formed by your dominant inputs. If your day begins with negativity, comparison, or noise, you are starting every morning in a mental deficit. You may not feel the damage immediately, but over time it shows up in your attitude, your energy, and your level of belief in what's possible. Input is not neutral. Everything you consume is either building you or breaking you. One of the most dangerous U.S. habits of this generation is passive consumption. People scroll for hours without intention, letting algorithms decide what enters their mind. But algorithms are not designed to improve your life. They're designed to keep your attention. If you don't take control of your inputs, something else will, and it will not have your best interest in mind. Attention is a currency, and whatever you speak is what you empower. High-level thinkers are intentional about what they allow into their mind. They understand that clarity is fragile. A single negative voice repeated often enough can outweigh dozens of positive ones. That's why they guard their environment fiercely. They are selective with conversations, cautious with entertainment, and deliberate with information. Not because they refragile, but because they are focused. What you listen to becomes your inner voice. The tone, language, and perspective of the content you consume eventually becomes the way you talk to yourself. If you surround yourself with complaining, fear-based thinking, and limitation, you will start to sound like it internally. And once that voice becomes familiar, it feels like truth, even when it's not. Controlling input is how you reclaim authority over your own thinking. Reading and learning are not just about gaining knowledge. They are about expanding perspective. When you expose yourself to higher levels of thinking, you start to see options you didn't know existed. You begin to question assumptions you once accepted as facts. Growth doesn't happen when you consume more. It happens when you consume better. A few powerful ideas repeated daily will change your life faster than endless information consumed randomly. Input control also means knowing when to unplug. Silence is an input too, and it's one of the most powerful ones. Constant noise leaves no room for reflection, creativity, or strategy. Some of your best breakthroughs will not come from more content, but from thinking anew, what you already know. Stillness allows wisdom to surface. If you want to change your future, start auditing your inputs. Look at what you consume and ask yourself an honest question. Is this feeding the life I want or the life I'm trying to escape? You don't need to cut off the world, but you do need to curate it. When you take control of what enters your mind, you take control of what comes out of your life. Most people were taught that hard work is the ultimate solution to every problem. So they respond to pressure by working longer hours, pushing harder, and sacrificing more. While effort matters, effort alone has a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day and only so much energy in a body. If your progress depends entirely on how hard you work, your results will always be limited by your capacity. Leverage is what allows results to grow without requiring you to give more of yourself each time. Leverage is the habit of asking better questions before taking action. Instead of asking, how much more can I do? You ask, how can this produce more with less? High-level thinkers understand that the biggest breakthroughs come not from doing more tasks, but from designing better systems. They focus on activities that multiply outcomes rather than consume time. One strategic decision can outperform months of nonstop effort. Labor focuses on input. Leverage focuses on output. Labor says, if I'm tired, I must be making progress. Leverage says, if this doesn't scale, it needs to change. This shift in thinking changes how you approach everything. You stop measuring success by how busy you are and start measuring it by results. Being exhausted no longer feels productive. It feels efficient. Leverage often shows up in skills, systems, and delegation. A valuable skill can create opportunities repeatedly without starting from zero each time. A system can produce consistent results without constant supervision. Delegation allows you to multiply yourself through others rather than trying to do everything alone. None of these remove effort, but they direct effort where it matters most. Many people resist leverage because it requires thinking before acting. Labor feels safe because it's familiar. Leverage feels uncomfortable because it exposes inefficiency. It forces you to confront the possibility that working harder is not the answer. But comfort has never been the pathway to growth. The habit of leverage requires patience up front and courage to change what isn't working. Leverage also demands long-term thinking. You may work harder initially to build something that later works for you. This is why many people never experience it. They are addicted to immediate payoff. But the disciplined thinker understands that temporary inconvenience can create permanent advantage. What you build once can serve you for years. When you think in leverage, your time becomes more valuable. You protect it, you invest it. You stop spending it on low-impact activities. You become selective, not selfish. You realize that saying yes to everything is actually saying no to progress. Focus becomes a strategic tool, not just a personality trait. If you want to elevate your results, stop asking how to work harder and start asking how to work smarter, longer, and wider. Leverage is no. About avoiding work, it's about honoring your time enough to make your effort count. When leverage becomes a habit, progress accelerates, stress decreases, and your impact expands far beyond what labor alone could ever achieve. Most people know what they should do, but they struggle with when they want the reward. They live in a culture that celebrates instant results, quick pleasure, and immediate comfort. Everything is designed to make waiting feel unnecessary and discipline feel outdated. But the people who build extraordinary lives operate by a different rule. They are willing to wait. They understand that the ability to delay gratification is not a single decision. It is a lifestyle that shapes every meaningful outcome. Delayed gratification is choosing long-term gain over short-term relief. It's turning down what feels good now for what will matter later. That choice rarely feels heroic in the moment. It feels quiet, inconvenient, and often lonely. But over time, it becomes the separating line between people who drift through life and people who design it. Comfort now always comes with a cost later. Discipline now always comes with a reward later. Most people sacrifice the IR future to protect their present. They choose ease over effort, entertainment over preparation, and excuses over responsibility. These choices don't feel dangerous because the consequences are delayed. But time is honest. It eventually delivers the bill. The habit of delayed gratification reverses that process. You pay the price up front so you can enjoy the benefit later. This habit shows up in small, daily decisions. Waking up early instead of sleeping in. Preparing instead of procrastinating. Investing instead of spending impulsively. These actions don't bring immediate applause, but they build momentum. Each time you delay a temporary pleasure, you strengthen your ability to control yourself. Self-control is not restrictive, it's empowering. When you control your impulses, you control your direction. Delayed gratification also builds trust with yourself. Every time you choose what matters over what's easy, you reinforce your self-respect. You prove that you are capable of honoring long-term commitments. That confidence compounds. You stop needing external validation because you know you can rely on yourself. People who lack this habit often feel frustrated, not because life is unfair, but because they've trained themselves to quit when things get uncomfortable. There is also a clarity that comes with delayed gratification. When you are not chasing constant stimulation, you can think more clearly. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop confusing activity with progress. Patience sharpens judgment. It allows you to see opportunities others miss because you're too busy seeking immediate rewards. Living this way doesn't mean rejecting enjoyment. It means putting enjoyment in its proper place. Pleasure becomes a reward, not a distraction. You enjoy it without letting it control you. You decide when to indulge instead of being driven by impulse. That balance is what creates sustainability. If you want a future that most people only talk about, you must be willing to live in a way most people avoid. Delayed gratification is not about deprivation. It's about vision. It's about deciding that your future is valuable enough to protect. When this habit becomes a lifestyle, progress stops feeling forced and starts feeling intentional. And that's when long-term success becomes inevitable. Most people are not stuck because they lack ability. They're stuck because they delay decisions. They overthink, overanalyze, and wait for perfect certainty before moving forward. But clarity rarely comes before action. It usually comes from it. Indecision creates mental weight. It drains energy, slows momentum, and keeps people trapped in preparation mode while opportunities pass quietly by. Progress favors those who decide, not those who hesitate. Fast debt. Decision-making does not mean careless decision-making. It means understanding that perfection is an illusion and that most decisions can be adjusted once movement begins. High performers don't wait until fear disappears. They decide in spite of it. They know that momentum is more valuable than certainty. When you move, you learn. When you stall, you stay confused. Long-term vision is what makes SP safe. Without vision, fast decisions can feel reckless. But when you are clear about where you're going, decisions become filters, not dilemmas. You stop asking, is this right? And start asking, does this move me closer to the future I'm committed to? That clarity removes emotional noise and makes choices simpler. Vision doesn't eliminate risk, but it gives risk a direction. Many people delay decisions because they fear making the wrong one. But avoiding decisions is a decision in itself, and it often has the highest cost. Opportunities rarely announce how long they'll be available. The habit of decisive thinking trains you to act with confidence using the information you have, not the information you wish you had. You refine your path as you go instead of waiting to feel ready. Decisive people conserve energy. Every unresolved choice consumes mental space. When decisions linger, they create stress and distraction. When decisions are made, even imperfect ones, the mind regains focus. Action replaces anxiety. Movement creates feedback. This is why decisive people often appear calm. They're not carrying the weight of endless options. Long-term thinkers also know when not to. Decide. Speed does not mean reacting to everything. It means deciding what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Vision helps you ignore distractions without guilt. You don't have to chase every opportunity when you're clear about your direction. Saying no becomes easier when you know what you're saying yes to. This habit also builds confidence. Every decision you make and follow through on reinforces your trust in yourself. You stop outsourcing your judgment to others. Advice becomes input, not permission. Over time, you develop an internal compass that guides you faster and more accurately. If you want your life to move forward, stop waiting for certainty and start committing to direction. Decide quickly, adjust intelligently, and keep moving. Long-term success doesn't come from perfect decisions. It comes from consistent movement guided by clear vision. When speed and vision work together, momentum becomes unstoppable and progress stops being accidental and starts being intentional. As you stand on the edge of 2026, understand this: the year ahead is not waiting to surprise you. It's waiting to reflect you. Your habits are all Rhea, decasting a shadow into the future. What you practice daily is quietly shaping what you'll experience publicly. You don't need a new year. You need a new standard, a higher identity, stronger discipline, cleaner inputs, smarter leverage, patience over impulse, decisive action guided by vision. None of these change your life overnight, but together they make it impossible for your life to stay the same. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled with luck or motivation. It's filled with habits. And the moment you commit to them, the future starts cooperating. So don't walk into 2026 hoping it will be different. Walk in prepared for it to be different, because you are different. The next chapter doesn't begin on January 1. It begins with the decision you make right now.